my view generally on partnerships was actually very, very positive, right? So like there was a time when I was like into partnerships and I was like, everyone should be on a partnership, partnership's great, all of this kind of stuff. And then I went and did lots of partnerships. And after that, my opinions changed. I've done a complete U-turn. I'm like, partnerships are not a good thing for most people. I see partnerships like marriage, right? And I feel that when it comes to partnerships, it's one of those things where it's very, very important that you marry the right person. And the chance and the risk of you marrying the wrong person is very, very high. Okay, so partnerships should be dealt with very, very cautiously. That's the first thing I would say. And I would say almost like for 90% of the time, maybe 80% of the time, partnerships are not right for anyone based on the situations. Now, if you are going to decide to go into partnership with someone, I think one of the key fundamentals is to assess each other's values, right? What are the things that the people value? So you want your values to be very similar. So when me and my business partners, the ones I have right now, I actually love working with my business partners. I love them. I wouldn't like change them for anyone else. We still have arguments, we have disagreements, all this stuff, but just after all the kind of things I've been through, like these are the guys that I want to be with. One of the things which is really beneficial is that our values are very similar. So we have certain values in our company which all three of us agree on. Now, of course, we have values that we don't agree on. There's some values that we don't agree on, but there are some values that we all agree on. So for example, one value is think we over me, which means that you don't have this selfish thinking, you don't think only of the individual, but the collective is more important, and we care more about everyone together rather than just us as individuals. So you can imagine if you have values which are the same, how well things can work together. Because when you're making decisions, all this stuff, like it's very unified. But if you have the opposite thinking, like imagine you're partnering up with someone who thinks me over we. So you're there thinking we over me, and he's there thinking me over we, right? So that's going to cause massive issues. So I think it's very, very important that the values are aligned. So you just want to talk to someone, you want to talk to him or her, you want to understand like what are their values, how do they feel about family, how do they feel about hard work, what do they feel about different things, what are the things that they value, all of these things you want to understand from their perspective. So it's not just about like, even if I have a good friend who I like, I wouldn't go into business with him. Like it has to be, he's a good, trustworthy person, obviously, that's like a no-brainer, but at the same time, he has to hold the same values as me, right? And then the second thing I would say is after values is that the objective of what we're trying to achieve has to be similar, right? Like you don't want to get into a business when it's like completely different objectives. So you could even have the same values where you're like, okay, we both value me over we over me and all of that stuff, but when it comes to what I'm trying to do with this business is very different. So for example, one partner might say, look, this business has to provide for me because I've got no money, I've got nothing, so I need as much money as I can from the business every month. Okay, the other partner might be like, look, I'm working full time, I don't actually need money from this business, I want to reinvest everything. So even the way that you live your life and the way you do things around the business is going to be very challenging, because one guy's going to go, look, I need to take money out, and you're going to say we should reinvest. So make sure that the objectives of the business, what you're trying to do, that is correct. And then the other thing I would say is that it's very important that although you're trying to find someone with very similar objectives and very similar values, you actually want to find someone with complementary skills. What does that mean? It means you want to find someone maybe who doesn't have what you have. Okay, so for example, let's say you're very good at high level strategic thinking. You're like that visionary person who can like look ahead and plan and think about stuff. You don't want to get another person like that. Okay, what you would prefer to have is someone who's much more of a doer, who's much more of a what they call an integrator, someone who will go out, take the action, is very, very focused on taking action and all these things. Because then what happens is that you complement each other, right? And therefore, of course, sometimes that can clash, but if your values are the same, if your objective is the same, and then you play different roles, it can work very, very well in that situation. When you look at the story of Musa alayhi salam, right, in that specifically, the two things that they talk about is like, one of them is like a worker who is righteous, and part of that is trustworthy and all of that, honorable, noble, all those things, right? And then the second thing is about capability, right? So capability is very, very important. The other thing I would say is that if it's a friend that you're going to be doing a business partnership with, it's very important. It's very important that you have that discussion that, look, friendship is more important. We're going to be very, very careful the way we do it. You should still write things down. You should still go into detail with all this stuff. You should write down in the agreement how you're going to handle disagreements, all these kind of things. I think there's like a lot of caution you have to exercise when it's a friend or someone that you know well already.